Okay, so I guess on to the last few minutes of the conference, the last like kind of working sessions and takeaways and what next. And I think we had three separate ideas to kind of wrap up about. One was the SJIA diagnostic criteria. The second was the MAS trial external control. And I'm just going to open up a Google Doc and write down thoughts that we can discuss. And I don't know if this is the best way to do it, but let's give it a shot. I think these were my three things to kind of wrap up about. I think for the SJIA diagnostic criteria, doing the poll and what's the best way for us to actually have impact and make sure we never have to discuss that again. Write up what we discussed. Doesn't work like this. Anyone?
I take it. Actually, nobody does. So methodologically, and it should go differently, okay? But this is a group of people who has been working together for how many times now? When was the first Next Gen? I still remember.
2016.
Yes, so it's 6 years that we have been working together. Most of us have been to all, and many of the parents have been there. We are becoming really the same community. So although we have not done it formally in a consensus meeting among experts, we actually achieved 80% higher, greater than 80% consensus on a statement. And this is standard consensus methodology in clinical science. So my guess is that this should be written up.
Okay, so that for action item is, if I can spell patience, is to write this up. Okay, so the next.
Alexei, would you like to comment on this?
Yes, exactly. So there are ongoing attempts to classify the criteria, and I think if we do publish this as proceedings or something like that, that certainly would help advance those efforts. So I think that would be helpful, yeah.
Yeah.
You would force us to do better.
Okay, next step, next thing was the MAS trial. I think we got some really good feedback about that, and we have some ideas about what to do next there. I think apart from any next steps we need to do as a group with that. And I invite everyone to speak up now, and I'll make sure to look at the chat too. I think Randy, if you can include the concept of a new definition of SJIA.
Yeah.
Yeah, we put that in the meetings, yeah. And by the way, I want to point out that Mariana, who's been here, has been really helpful in taking session notes. So we actually hope to, by the end of the weekend, to get all the session notes together along with the Zoom chats and everything and have that part done. And we'll have the videos too. So hopefully it'll help us write this up. With MAS trials, Alexei, any to-dos there as a group, or is this all you guys at this point?
Well, I think we agree that we need this natural history study. I think it's feasible for MAS. I'm not sure about the other subtypes of refractory SJIA. And as a smaller group, we probably need to get together and define all those clinical and laboratory features that needs to be included in the registry. But that could be done with a smaller group, I think.
Got it. So then what we are remaining with is the next steps in the refractory. I think Mariana raised her hand.
Just a quick question, because I think that when we were talking about the withdrawal trials, there were several parents that said that they would consider doing a withdrawal trial. And it seems that technically from the FDA standpoint, that would probably be a more reliable way to get the information. So would it be worth it kind of doing a survey with parents and asking them if they would be amenable to doing a withdrawal trial, like explaining them like what would entail and like using low threshold to restarting therapy, just so like, because one of the risks that I understood that we would run and doing the historic controls is in the end the FDA saying like we can't use that because the disease is too heterogeneous and you can't consider the historic controls as enough to use as a control group.
Mariana, I have difficulty seeing how we could use withdrawal in MAS, which is a sort of an acute event, right? It could be feasible in other subtypes of refractory systemic JIA, but I'm not sure this approach would work for MAS. Fabrizio, would you comment?
So the point, Mariana, is that there are chronic, long-lasting disease of polyarticular JIA patient, in which is a completely different setting, and this is one end of the spectrum, and there is the very acute, rapidly deteriorating in 24 hours child with acute episodes of MAS. Now, in between, the SJIA lung disease are in between somewhere. Some of them go very quickly into acute MAS. Some of them never do, actually. They stay in that, in between state of subacute partial MAS, okay? Now, for withdrawal design in the acute patients, I'm sorry. Don't even think about it. I would not recruit one single patient in such a study. It's too dangerous, okay? In the in-betweeners, it's a bit complicated. It depends on the outcome in how you set the bar. It's really difficult, okay? So, I mean, theoretically, the concept of accepting a withdrawal design in a chronic disease is already a bit difficult. So I don't know whether it would help. It's really the setting of the study and the setting of the disease that makes the difference. If you want to do it in SJIA lung disease with relapsing MAS, we may want to try. But how do we set the bar to explain to us parents how to answer the question? I'm not sure.
I see Randy has his hand up.
I can't see any hand.
Yeah, I would just say that
I can see hand. I can see hand.
I'll be the contrary.
I think you muted yourself. Yeah.
Along with Ed and Mariana, I think the more I think about it, there are some families who are not going to do it, and that's understandable. And there's no perfect trial, but I think it is feasible and something that you can get approval for. And if the drug works and you come off of it and you have a very low threshold to go back on, that's the one risk you have to take. And we have patients who get MAS repeatedly over and over and over again, and there's always a risk of mortality with each MAS episode. But whether it's steroids or whatever, we often get them back under control. But until we do the trial, we'll just keep circling endlessly. And that one seems like the FDA may buy into it, particularly if you select people with high IL-18 levels. I don't know. That's just the more, this conference has been really good, I think, about crystallizing some of these thoughts. And
Yeah.
That one seems reasonable if you have a low threshold to go back on therapy.
I think Randy has a point here. Can I elaborate on that? Can we, as a smaller group, make a proposal? Can we, in a smaller group, try to define what would be an acceptable threshold of what we scientifically call definition of a flare? Because that's the point. And I see Randy's point in saying that this would be acceptable to the FDA. I know Nicola is still there, but even in a rare disease, sorry, your screen was confused.
Sorry, I just, Maria and I added you. If you can help me with the notes a bit, you're really fast.
Even in a rare disease, one could certainly think about an open label and an acceptable threshold for a flare. I'm trying to quoting Nikolai, which is still there, so he can probably jump in. He's jumping in. The clinical flare.
I'm not lurking. I'm listening, and I'm really
No,
intrigued by
but
the
just
discussion.
help us, Nicola. You are helping us, and we appreciate this also as clinicians, disease experts, if I may say so. The flare has to be clinically relevant somehow, and has to have some objective measures like laboratory parameters, I guess. But it has to be not dangerous. That's the point. So we probably have to accept a low level of clinical flare.
Yeah, so I want to make it clear that by no means we want to jeopardize any patients, particularly if there is a concern about rebound flares or inability to respond to the same treatment. Definitely that would not be something that we would maybe even agree to or accept. But again, and I agree, for MAS, that's probably a different disease entity, different ball game, where there should be different considerations. For more of the refractory disease, there could be more room for doing a study with the randomized withdrawal design. And I think the details, I think we may need to think more about, but if this is still an acceptable or possible scenario, we would be willing to work with you and with the sponsors on trying to define what level of response or disease state should be acceptable to patients and parents to consider withdrawing patients, and then what would trigger a flare, what would be defined as flare.
Yeah, I think we should work on that as a group and come up together with the parents with a definition that could be used in future clinical trial design and submitted to the FDA for their evaluation. That would be a next step.
As a starting point, it seems like you could use the criteria that are used for non-response in the previous trials, for instance, of tocilizumab, right? Modify those for what constitutes a flare. But that includes.
Trial are you talking about? Which trial are you talking about?
Your New England Journal paper, for instance.
Okay, the one that I should know.
Yes.
I'm afraid they may not be directly applicable here, but we can certainly think about it. Those were designed for escape.
Right, but many of the criteria are also ones that would be considered for flare.
They were really tough because we wanted to make sure that we were evaluating the efficacy of the drug. If I look back at that design was too tough. It was too rigid. The escape rules were really tough. And actually there was a mistake in one of the 3 escape rules. But nothing is perfect. But I think they're too rigid and too tough.
Do we want
Remember, it was the first biologic ever tested in systemic GIA and the first ever trial done ever in SGIA. So we didn't know what we were doing.
one thought, we were brainstorming some outcome measures this morning. Would it be worthwhile? How do we follow up on those? Should we just?
I think your idea, because it was a Rashmi idea, to look at time in mass remission as a clinical outcome with objective laboratory measures included, it's very important. I think we should do the exercise. We can do it very quickly because we have a couple of patients on variable drugs with chronic relapsing MAS. I see Claudia nodding. We have already chatted about that before. Somebody else could do it as well. I'm looking at Alexi. And we should actually look at in a small number of patients at time in mass remission, which could be compared to historical controls. And I wouldn't give up on on a natural history study here, whether it can be used for to support an application or not. It depends on how the trial is going to be designed, but I think we should keep thinking about doing a natural history study of this subset of refractory.
You know, Veronica Miller had floated the idea of a concurrent observational group or something like that. I keep forgetting the term exactly. What exactly did that mean? Does anybody know?
It's something close to the consensus treatment plans of CARA. So you do groups of patients according to the treatments, and you observe them, and it's observational, non-interventional. You're free to do whatever you want, but you observe their course of disease.
Okay.
So this can be done with the N of ones we have been discussing today and yesterday and the day before yesterday. This could be done, actually should have been done now that I think about it.
Yeah, should have been done.
And you know, N of ones, then you end up with 5 MMF, with 5 DOFA, with 3 RUXO, and you start putting together numbers, which I think this is important. And the foundation is in the best possible position to gather the patients. It's not us. We don't even know where the patients are.
The patients actually were asking what could they gather. I see Randy's hand again, so I want to make sure to give him a chance.
Sorry, I just need to take it down.
Okay. So for the refractory SGIA trials, kind of come back as a patient group, or you guys meet as a physician group to decide the acceptable threshold, discuss some trial designs, and then maybe we can facilitate a Zoom meeting with parents to get feedback. And the problem is that if we do this and without a sponsor, and then when a sponsor comes along, it changes completely, then all the feedback sessions we've done with the parents might not be relevant. And in fact, they might feel that we led them down a particular path, which didn't end up, being the case. So I wonder if we
Rashmi, I think most of the physicians here, or some of the physicians here, would be talking with these companies.
Okay.
And they can deliver the message, provided the message is clear. The FDA can do that too.
Okay.
I think so.
And I think the general principles that emerge from the discussions with patients and families would apply regardless of what drug we're talking about for a particular condition. The same concerns are going to be there, I think.
Particularly if this is written down, Rashmi. If this is written down and communicated to the scientific community, it will be publicly available and cannot be ignored.
Okay. Okay, so maybe we just, if it's an academic paper, I mean, patients are not the best group to write that, but we can write up like something about, acceptability of clinical trials and something like that, I guess, and a white paper type of thing. Nicolai, may I ask you, is this what happens in the patient-focused drug development meeting, like you discuss both the condition and a trial designs, or is that something we should consider, or have what we've done here kind of obviates that need?
So I think patient-focused drug development meetings are intended to really get the input from the patients, and parents about issues that are relevant. And it could be just general experience, individual experience, which is probably not as helpful as more of the broader discussions and questions that you brought up. For example, would it be acceptable for patients to stop treatment, or would it be again, I don't want to limit what these meetings can accomplish, but ultimately it's what patients and parents think and want. I think
Okay.
it could be aspects of the disease that it's not known much about or experiences of patients or by patients and by parents about the disease that's not really well recognized or captured or assessed in clinical trials. All of these questions can be brought up for discussion. And again, I think the agency has quite a bit of experience with these PFDD meetings, and can certainly, I will connect you with the right people who can give you more guidance on what a PFDD meeting can accomplish.
Okay, so the forums are PFDD meeting, or for biomarkers, the CPIM meeting. Yeah, those are the two forums that I know of.
So again, the PFDD again it's really patient oriented to get the input directly from the patients and the families. Regarding other aspects of drug development, whether that's biomarkers or sort of broader questions that can apply to multiple products, multiple programs, CPIM is certainly one option to bring these, which are sort of informal discussions and brainstorming in a way that are non-binding, but at least you can get a sense of the issues that we identify with specific proposals. There are other, again, we're open to participate in any of the meetings that you have, like the one that you have now. And also, if we are to organize a meeting, we'll definitely have you and the patients invited to those discussions. I guess
Okay.
there are multiple ways or avenues for interaction and getting input from patients and from, again, the other stakeholders like the academics, the researchers, clinical trialists, and the industry.
Okay. And if we have a follow, I mean, I think we will seriously, we've already planned to try to design the natural history study. Whether it plays the role of external control or not, I think it'll help us for the refractory SJIA. For MAS, I think we know what to try to do. It would be great to get a set of feedback about that once we have a little bit more of planning done. Is that something we can like organize a Zoom meeting with you and Carrie Jo maybe, and try to get some feedback on in a month or two?
Um,
Am I putting you on the spot?
you are putting me on the spot, and
I apologize. I
no, but
can do that.
I mean, you're doing the right thing. I think generally we want to have more fleshed out proposals that we can kind of review and think about. If there are sort of general questions, I think a forum like this or a meeting like this might be good to have these discussed, but I'm not sure that we will have specific guidance or recommendation. I think that's really the issue with, and again, we're here to kind of guide the discussion and give you an idea about what's important for us as stakeholders, which might not be important for others, but for us. But if you want to have specific agreements, I think that would be more challenging in this setting.
Yeah, I hear you and I understand what you're saying. I think that even the general guidance that you've given us has been extremely helpful, because there's several things that we were trying to think of, which I think we are thinking maybe no, don't try to do it, do something else and try to get the community ready for that. So I think even the general guidance has been enormously helpful. And I hear you in terms of what the forum for that might be. I think we are running out of time actually. And I think I'm supposed to sum up at some point. Do we have anything else with this? Let me wrap.
Before that, just one more point. If there is a specific proposal, say you mentioned biomarkers, specific proposal for biomarkers, there is a whole pathway within the agency to review these proposals and get feedback and formal qualification of a biomarker. Again, this is I think Chris Leptak has been leading this group while he was at the agency before, so he's familiar with that. But that's one way to get more formal feedback, not just the general guidance, more formal feedback on specific proposals. Just as an example, if you think that IL-18 levels could be used in a certain way or for certain reasons, certain context of use, you can submit a proposal under this pathway to have FDA weigh in on how do we view this as a biomarker.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's another group. It's under the drug development tool qualification pathway, where again FDA can be engaged in a more formal way.
Got it. I want to leave just a moment for any other parents who have any questions. I think we have a next steps thing. We know what to do next, which is great. We started off this conference with a few different ideas of trying to resolve the STIA diagnostic criteria and hopefully never come back to that. And so I think we made some headway with that. The clinical trials too. I think thank you everyone for being here. And this has been our most attended conference ever, and we weren't necessarily expecting that this time. Yeah, I'm a little bit overwhelmed and tired and not sure what to say, but if anybody else wants to speak up, any last things? Thank you, Nicolai. No, you have to leave now. I don't know. Any other parents want to speak up? I think several of you had some perspectives yesterday. Otherwise, I think we'll set up a follow-up on the I think the clinical trials, refractory SJIA clinical trials design. We'll try to do that soon, and we'll try to have the physicians and the parents with that. Yeah, and keep everyone who's interested involved. Thank you. This has been another NextGen. I wish this was in person so we could go and have some drinks together or have a meal together, but instead, I think that there'll be like the sudden leave button and Zoom and it all ends. Everybody goes into the nether. So yeah, thank you for being here. Thank you to all the parents for us learning together, and thank you to all the physicians. I know it's been tiring. There's been a lot of work, and to the FDA who have been here hearing us and participating, and it's been great. Well, I guess hopefully we'll have another NextGen early next year or the end of this year, as Fabrizio will tell me, start planning it now. Right?
I mean, I know it's your conference in the parents conference, but I feel obliged to say two things.
Yes.
One, this has been very effective, and we have learned a lot. And sharing the experience of your children with us, it's a great opportunity for us, because we see children, or the stories of children. I hate to say the disease, but it's a story of children that we would never see all together. And this is very informative for us. And the second is that the discussion with you is very productive. We always get new ideas, new, I don't know how to say, new path to follow for the subsequent year. So I just wanted to thank you. I think this is very useful for us, for the science, and hopefully eventually for the children. So thank you very much, Ashmi, and all of you.
Thank you.
Know, maybe somebody else wants to add something, but I felt I had to say it. Thanks.
I just want to get back to physical meetings. Hopefully next one will be a physical meeting.
Yes.
So thank you, Claudia, for being here. Thank you, who I can see on my video yet. Thank you, Mariana, for helping us write this up. I see Valentina there. Hey, Valentina.
We can hear.
Okay.
Thank you to the doctors and Ms. Rashmi for doing all this.
Thank you.
Oh, there's all the kids. Yeah, you guys were going to have a picture, yeah? Yeah, maybe we should do on a separate Zoom, because I know the conference.
The doctors can see the faces of who they're working for.
Yeah, these are the higher L18 kids. There's Nora. It's Valentina. There's all the.
We're so
Okay,
grateful
guys.
for all of you.
Yeah, we'll catch up the parents group. Okay, I'll email. Okay, thanks everyone. Bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye. Ciao, ciao.
Bye.